Hey. Good. How are you doing? Good to see you too. Yes. Yes. Yeah. We will. Yeah, we'll get started. Everyone can take their seats. We're going to get started. We're gonna get started. You guys can. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to Meshmerise Boston. Meshmerise. What is Meshmerise? What is this word that's so unfamiliar to many of us? Well, let's break it down. To rise is to originate, to come into being, and to lift together. To mesmerize is to fascinate, to amaze with delight, and to hold attention. And to mesh is to fit together, to bring two into one in harmony. So when we combine all those three parts, we get Meshmerise, which hopefully explains the many questions I've been getting about what this definition of Meshmerise is. So when we combine those, Meshmerise means to mesh individuals together with amazement and delight, building collective knowledge that unites us and inspires us to rise together and make an impact. Or does it? Is that really the definition? Well, none of us will actually be able to say whether that's true or not, because we made this word up. At 3D Experience Lab, we created this word Meshmerise to spark curiosity, to attract people such as yourselves, to follow that intrigue and join us here tonight. Meshmerise, though, is really so much more than just a word. It's actually a word that represents this annual event. This unique gathering of the minds, of this perfect platform to harmoniously bring people together to share their collective knowledge across a variety of disciplines, from art to technology, as you'll see tonight. All with that goal, that overarching goal of making a positive impact, of helping everybody rise together. The quote, "Lift as you climb," comes to mind for me when I think of Meshmerise. So ultimately, the meaning of Meshmerise is really up to you. It's up to all of us who are here tonight to connect with each other, to learn together, to experience things together, and decide what does that mean for us to Meshmerise and to make an impact. So I'm Jillian Friat, Senior Manager here at the 3D Experience Lab in North America, and I am excited and honored and thrilled to welcome you alongside my colleagues, Pauline, Sean, Abhishek, Jane, and the entire 3D Experience Lab team to Meshmerise Boston. You know, this is the first Meshmerise event in Boston. So you are the founding crew here. So welcome. Thank you for being here. We invite you to make connections, make innovations happen, and make an impact. At 3D Experience Lab, our team is dedicated to supporting open innovation that accelerates disruptive technology that will strongly and positively impact society. And that's just part of a broader mission of Dassault Systèmes to harmonize product, nature, and life. And I think you'll see that manifest here tonight, that harmony of product, nature, and life. There's a hint to that in your goodie bags as well, which is based on the amazing art experience just on the other side of that wall over there. So I think that you'll really enjoy this time of harmonizing product, nature, and life. And when I think about that mission, I'd like to introduce you to someone who exemplifies this ethos. In my 10 or so years here at Dassault Systèmes, I've been continuously inspired by the seeds of innovation planted by Sujit Jain and his team. Sujit is an expert at helping people rise, whether that's students, startups, or makers, as well as taking on very mesmerizing projects or moonshot ideas, and meshing people together who are going to work together to solve problems with a purpose. So I'd like to welcome Sujit Jain, VP of Business Development and Strategy for 3D Experience Works.
Thanks, Jillian.
Welcome.
Thank you, Jillian. Those were nice words, and hopefully I'll be able to give you some more context to 3D Experience Lab and Dassault Systèmes and Meshmerise, and of course my boss Gianpaolo is here, and I see where's Manish? Oh, Manish is back up there. He's CEO of SolidWorks, one of our top leading brands within the Dassault Systèmes. And my job today would be to give you a little bit more context. Some of you, I see a lot of familiar faces here. I know a lot of you guys, some of you who have been working with us in various capacities. So, I want to give you a little insight into Dassault Systems and what we are passionate about and why Meshmerise and what 3D Experience Lab, I know you're going to learn more. Let me start by something we are seeing. All of us are seeing we're living in this age where exponential technologies are happening, right? We were just talking about what's happening with the genes and skins and cells, AI. We're living in this world and where technologies are moving fast. And some of you might have seen this presentation before, some parts of it. Anybody knows what this is, I wasn't, by the way, I was not born then. I was not there. Anybody knows what that is? First computer, somebody said that this was bigger than probably a 10 by 10 room. And the compute power and all that, this is back in PDP. 50 years later, your iWatch, by the way, it only came in 2015. It seems like it's been there forever. iPhone was 2007. So in 50 years, that packed more power on your wrist than that whole big room of compute power. The point is that the technology compresses. So this is 50 years. Hideo Kadoma did something similar with stereolithography in, I think, 1983, 85. Then Charles Hull came in, called it, rapid prototyping, 3D printing. And now you have companies which some of, we had actually all three of these companies we have worked with at Dassault Systems, CellLink doing something where they're printing real tissues, Nanodimension doing ink, electronic ink. So you can essentially don't do PCBs on flat boards. You can do it in your, as the 3D designs are happening. And of course, the fun part around 3D printing food, right? So technologies are moving faster. So 50 years, then 20 years or 30 years. And think about AI and everything. Technologies are moving so fast. In 5 years, who knows where AI is going, autonomous cars, all of those kinds of things. So technology moves fast. Robotics, IoT, EVs, we all see this every day. But the point at Dassault Systems, and for us, for all of us, technology moves fast, but people have to move along with it. Because if technology moves and we don't understand, then the adoption doesn't happen, mass adoption. And we've seen that with AI, right? Nobody talked about AI. Yeah, we talked about AI, but what is it, 1 year ago? As soon as ChatGPT came, everybody is adopting, people are getting along. Yes, there's a lot of controversy, all of that, but things are moving. So technology cannot leave people behind. And experience, which Dassault Systems is a big proponent of, is very important. And experience is about not just a product, but how you build it, how you experience it. All the startups which are doing these things, it's all about building experiences. And experience is not just technology, right? It's also art. Jillian, you just talked about it. The dome, for example. We have this human behavior where experience is everything, and art connects you emotionally. So science, art, and technology is about creating experiences, and this is what Dassault Systems is about. So you're going to hear a lot at Dassault Systems. We talk about virtual twin. We want to do virtual twin of everything. Not just data. Jillian talked very rightly talked about harmonizing product, life, and nature. Well, Sherry's here, so. Sherry is with the Fab Foundation, and we're going to talk about it in a second as well. So virtual twins is about bringing people data and everything, not just the data, but the behaviors, right? So when you do medical stuff, the Human Heart Project, those kinds of things. So here's a quick, I don't know if there's no sound on this for some reason.
The Experience Platform is the world's leading solution, allowing ever closer alignment between the virtual and the real worlds. Hosted on a single platform, allowing a range of stakeholders to interact throughout the life cycle of the system. Imagine and realize the future. A world of new opportunity awaits with Dassault Systèmes Virtual Twin Experience.
So for us, these are not just words. We believe that this is the innovation we bring to the table, where all of you have the advantage of taking use of this virtual technology. So we are Dassault Systèmes, a company of more than 22,000 people. We are across in 136 countries, 197 sites and all that. And you probably can feel around it. Hopefully you'll talk to a lot of people and you'll see what we say. We are a purpose-driven company, right? So it's not, as I just said, it's not the words, it's the actions, and Dassault Systèmes actions you will see everywhere. Combining our technology, which I just talked about, is very very important. And again, we are not short-term driven. It's a public company. However, you will see that our actions are more long-term driven. This is why this vision of harmonizing product life and nature is very important to us. Some examples of companies who were part of, let's say, 3D Experience Lab, our startup programs, how we are helping innovate. This is Boom, started very small with the goal of getting supersonic jets for consumer flights. They're doing very well. Hopefully we'll see them. Maybe you'll fly on one of those very soon, but a lot of our technology has been used. This is Mike Schultz, Paralympian. Actually, you're going to hear a lot from Matt Carney later, but this is his something you've worked on quite a bit as well. But Mike Schultz is one of our customers, started this company where he turned his disadvantage into an advantage for a lot of other people in doing extreme sports, even if you are challenged. Mars is autonomous logistics operations company. Dexai Robots, which was standing right here, I think a year ago or something, but they want to make robotics, bring robotics to kitchen. And then Calibri is doing molecular level research, therapy, manufacturing, making it more efficient. These are all our customers, right? And this is an interesting one. You might have heard of them, might have seen them. Gravity Industries out of UK, human flights possible, right? So you can just imagine science, technology, art is in all of these projects everywhere you see. So these are real companies doing real stuff, real innovation, some going to space, moon, everything. I'm always excited to talk about things where I go to a shop like Rise Robotics and they're doing they're replacing hydraulic pistons with mechanized pulleys to companies going on space, right? And we worked with, so I say we because we, Jillian, myself, Gianpaolo, Dan, sitting here, we are all consider ourselves, along with you guys, designers, engineers, hobbyists, makers, partners, fabricators, artists, and you will see that because we are part and parcel of that community. Huge community. We work over 7 to 8 million users, from students to makers. You'll see we are very passionate about working with students. So whether it's FIRST Robotics, whether it's SAE, underwater, AUVSI, underwater vehicle competitions, whatever, solar cars, we are there. We are there in the pits with the students, helping them, providing them pizza if that's what they need, or technology, both. Over 10 million students. We have products like Apps for Kids, starts at 4-year-old kids who can just push and pull and design and produce things. If anybody is interested, we can showcase as well. This is where I was talking about Sherry when she entered. We work with Fab Foundation, which we are very fortunate and lucky to work with. Started out at MIT with inspiration from Dr. Neil Gershenfeld. Actually, he talks about inspiration from Fab Lab Zero all the time, which is in a place called Vigyan Ashram in India, which is a grassroots make place where you go in 6 months, they take kids from local villages and so on, and within 6 months, they create a business for a need and solve. So it's true entrepreneurship, solving problems. So Yogesh Kulkarni is a very interesting person who's running that organization right now. Or we were all together with Fab Foundation in Bhutan, where they measure what gross domestic happiness. But bringing technology there, or in Rwanda, Giampaolo, you might remember. Actually, Matt and Giampaolo, all three of us were in Rwanda. Maybe I can say it. We snuck in some beer in that telecom building in the night to work on a project together. So we can tell you more about it. It's true. Or Abhishek probably can tell you more about his experiences in Chile, where he was with this Fab Lab. So this leads me to 3D Experience Lab, right? Everything I'm talking about, 3D Experience Lab is a vehicle for us to interact with you, to empower you, to give you the technologies. And technology, and it's not just about technology, right? It's about the community and the network we can provide you with too. So just like in an incubator accelerator where they're providing you money and experience, we provide the help to make your software, more of your hardware, make sure with our software that you can do things with the mentoring and network. That's what the 3D Experience Lab does, and you're going to hear a lot more about it. So I would very quickly close that. I said this dream big, create bold, and that's really what we are helping this product Life and Nature as we talked about. And for all the startups and young entrepreneurs who are trying to do things, we are living in an amazing time. Exponential technologies will and are shaping the world. Think experience. Don't just get stuck on solving the problem, but solve it beautifully, right? Use experience, science, art, technology. Of course, you're all passionate. And look around. A lot of problems, go solve them, and we are here to help you. We are one of those plenty of people around to do. So thank you, and you'll hear more.
Thank you, Sujit. Thank you, Sujit. I continue to be inspired by the work that we do, and I appreciate you sharing that with everyone tonight. I hope everyone feels that inspiration that from Sujit and this incredible work. So around 7 years ago or so, Frederic Vacher, the head of innovation for Dassault Systèmes, founded the 3D Experience Lab that you will all get to see tonight. And he built a community that will make an impact, really, that will last well beyond our lifetimes. The 3D Experience Lab supports over 60 startups who are bringing truly groundbreaking technology to life and making a positive impact for the world. But the best way for you to experience this, to really experience the impact that supporting startup innovation can make through acceleration like we do at the 3D Experience Lab, which includes investment in time and resources, mentorship, tools, software, hardware, is to hear from the startups themselves. So we'd love to invite up some startups who are part of the 3D Experience Lab, as well as others in our network who we are proud to support. And my ask for you is that as they're giving you their pitch, think about ways that you might be able to work with them. How can you support these founders? Or what insights did you take away? And be sure to find them after. They'll each have a space where they're demonstrating their prototypes, and you can see in firsthand what they're working on. So keep that in mind. And also, as we know, starting up is no easy feat. So I ask that you give these founders your best round of applause after each of their pitches, and we'll show them our love. So, our founders. First up, we've got Cormac from Lift Labs. I apologize. The name will always stay with me.
This working? Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Cormac Conjus-McCarthy from Lift Labs, and there we are developing the next generation of fishing gear. And so we're developing a ropeless lobster trap fishing system that's aimed to solve an issue where North Atlantic right whales in particular, a species on the brink of extinction, get entangled in the traditional rope and buoy type of lobster fishing gear. And so our system essentially removes the rope entirely, and that's what we've been working on and collaborating with local lobstermen in the New England area in particular to develop the gear. So the way that the system works generally is you clip our system onto the lead trap, send the whole system overboard, it sinks to the bottom of the ocean, and then when you're ready to pick up the gear, you drive over and you send an acoustic signal to it, and it inflates a buoy that lifts the trap up to the surface without any rope. And so the goal of our company is to develop the next generation of fishing gear that's faster and more efficient than traditional rope and buoy. So thanks. Come ask some questions.
Thank you, Cormac. And next up, we've got Jose from Dinocardia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jose Wong. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Dinocardia. And I'm going to describe a problem first, and then we're going to go into like the solution that we're striving for. So we've all had our blood pressure measured before, right? So you either go to the doctor or you go to your local drugstore, pick up a machine. You put it on your arm, and first thing in the morning, you measure your blood pressure. If it's too high, what do we often do? We probably just stop, relax, measure it again. But the reality is that first measurement was probably right. The device didn't change, but you changed, right? So your blood pressure is fluctuating throughout the day. I get up in the morning, my blood pressure is pretty low. I have my first cup of coffee, it probably goes up. I have 3 or 4 meetings, it keeps going up. Have lunchtime, relax. You keep going down and down, down. By the end of the day, when you go to bed, your blood pressure is supposed to drop. Now, we always use that one number that you get from the doctor's office as an indicator of your health, but that seems incorrect, right? Because over the entire span of the day, of the week, your blood pressure is fluctuating. And I'm going to tell you how big this problem is. So we're going to describe hypertension, which is high blood pressure, and hypotension, which is low blood pressure. There are 1.4 billion people in the world that are hypertensive. That seems like a big number. And half of the US adult population is hypertensive, which seems crazy, right? So like maybe half, oh, you guys look healthy, but like half of the room here could be hypertensive. 30% are misdiagnosed, which means they have no idea, they're not being treated. It's the #1 cause of heart attack and stroke, right? In the hospital, if we think about the ICU and operating room, there are lots of opportunity to look for pressure drops, right? So when your blood pressure starts to drop, you begin to decompensate the patients at risk for, again, acute kidney injury, heart attacks, all sorts of bad things. In the OR, there are 30,000 surgeries. 70% of patients experience some extended period of intraoperative hypotension, which is low blood pressure, high risk. In the ICU, there's about a third of ICU patients in the US, which is about 5 million patients are at risk. So there's got to be a better way. So we're developing a continuous, non-invasive blood pressure and hemodynamic monitor that you wear on your wrist. It does not require external calibration, and basically it'll measure continuously over some length of time. How it works, if you put your finger on your, I'm holding a microphone here, so it's hard. If you put your finger on your pulse, right? Everyone's done this before, and I don't know why everyone uses 2 fingers, but that's how people do it. You feel, what you're feeling is the force transmitted from the pressure wave in the blood vessel below, and that's your radial artery. We've created and developing an optomechanical sensor, which takes that information, we use video imaging, and we basically reconstruct the pressure wave in the blood vessel. So we have another representation of the blood vessel, and from that we can determine directly the systolic and diastolic pressures. Systolic is the top big number, hopefully not too big, and then the lower number is the diastolic number. Because we're using video, we're also able to look for small changes. We've basically converted pixels to force, and then we can see small changes. We can also look for what we call artifacts. So if you wiggle your fingers, they often tell you when you get your blood pressure measured, sit still, don't do anything. But people do. Like if you're in the ICU, you're going to move your hands, you're going to eat, you're going to use the remote control. But we can also detect those things and start to compensate for those. So that's the solution. So you can imagine like this technology could be used anywhere from the operating room, the critical care environment, to the emergency medical services, helicopters, ambulances, remote patient monitoring. So at home, that's a big deal too, right? So if you have a chronic disease, or if you're pregnant, and preeclampsia is also a big issue. We just actually we were awarded a grant to do some studies with pregnant women, and then there's multiple other opportunities. So that's kind of an overview of what we're doing. My colleague Taylor Tobin and I are here today. We'd love to talk to you more about what we're doing. Just come visit us, and want to thank Dassault Systèmes and the 3D Experience Lab, because they've been very supportive for us since the very beginning. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Jose. We're going to welcome up Raj from Smartweave.
Hi, You can all hear me? Great. Once again, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's a great pleasure to be here and talk with you what we are building with Smartweave. When I heard the word Meshmerise, I thought this had something to do with what we are doing, because we are actually developing meshes of a sort. Now, imagine that you cut off your finger, and you could wrap it in a certain kind of mesh or scaffold. And then when you remove that, your finger would have regrown. That's the sort of miracle of science that we are building with Smartweave. So we are a group of surgeon scientists from Stanford, Harvard, Maastricht, along with some deep tech entrepreneurs who've come together to achieve the promise that comes about through the kinds of bioconvergence technologies that Suchit was talking about earlier. So these are technologies that are at the intersection of systems biology, AI, and 3D printing, and they allow you to bring these into a sort of a unique mix that allows you to achieve what has never been able to be achieved before. And because of these technologies, you can now do things that some even a few years ago, that combination would not have been possible. And this allows us to massively speed up the innovation cycle that can truly enhance millions of lives. We are on a strong growth clip. We've just closed some important financing. We are also expanding our team, growing out lab infrastructure, including in Puerto Rico, and then Palo Alto, a few other places. So very excited to have this opportunity. Dassault has been a critical part of our development. We've been building out some of the virtual twins that Suchit again talked about with the help of some of their software, which is a key part of what makes some of this visualization possible. Would love to talk to several of you here and see how we might be able to gain from your insights or join hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raj. And next up, we have Jared from Augment Health.
Hey everyone, Jared Myers, CEO and co-founder of Augment Health, here from Nashville, Tennessee, actually. At Augment, we're developing diagnostic monitoring tools to support urologists in helping their patients with spinal cord injury, multiple sclerosis, and other neurologic conditions to avoid kidney injury and ultimately kidney failure. We see that there are 7 million of these patients here in the US today, and after 12 months, 70% of them have an inadequately managed bladder. By monitoring bladder pressures and by doing it in an at-home setting, we're able to help urologists to know when a patient needs treatment and also help them to know how a patient's responding to treatment, where current solutions today are confined to the clinic, involve urethral catheters, rectal catheters, as well as filling the bladder with saline. Very unnatural process. Our goal is to be able to enable patients to actually access the care they need, especially when we're talking about people who are maybe 2 hours away from the nearest specialist. So with that, to date, we've completed a prototype of the technology, patent pending internationally, and what we're really excited about is recent animal study data showing over 99% accuracy of our pressure monitor in a pig bladder model. Looking toward next year, we're looking to do a clinical study to really demonstrate this in humans, so that way we can give urologists the tools that they need so they can not only treat their patients better, also giving patients improved quality of life, and then at the end of the day, giving them a new tool to better understand how treatments might evolve and expand in the future. So with that, yeah, also around, so would love to chat, and yeah, looking forward to meeting you.
Thank you so much, Jared. And next, we have, certainly last but not least, is Athena of Behave Bras. Come up, Athena.
All right, so not technically a healthcare company, not technically a tech company, but I'm going to talk about both of those things today and how I've managed to take them into my company, Behave. So I'm Athena Kazvikis. I'm local here from Boston, Massachusetts. All right, so let me tell you about me growing up. I grew up in a large Greek family, and I always felt supported. However, I developed a problem. Actually, I developed two very big problems. I developed large breasts at a very young age, and they just destroyed my back and my neck and my shoulders and my confidence. I used to have to wear not one, not two, but three sports bras just to play sports comfortably without injuring myself or like losing an eye. And listen, I am not at all alone. There are 80 million women today in the US that are double D and above, that are looking to find comfortable, supportive options so that they can actually love their bodies again. And them, like myself, got really tired of waiting for these huge bra brands to better support huge breasts. So that's why I developed Stays technology that is patented, because I got quite tired of like waiting around, and I know that large breasts need a lot more support than just lift. So how Stays work, and come see me in there because I have a little mannequin. They're stretchy pieces of fabric. They live inside of the cup of every Behave bra. They encapsulate each breast and ensure each of the girls is staying right where they belong in their assigned seats. Think of them like a soft seat belt, but for your bust. And they keep the girls so secure that you can kind of go sideways, you can jump around, and you're not going to lose anybody in the process. Stays are a huge technology for us. They're one of the only innovations to come out in the last 20 years in bras, but it's not just a bra brand. Stays is utility patented for anything that's a breast support garment. So we have legs, not just in bras and support garments, but also in swim, sport, lingerie, everything. When you have large breasts as a female, this is a full body health problem. And very few companies are trying to solve this. So I am the consumer, I am the owner, I am the founder of Behave Bras. All this technology helped me get the fastest deal ever last year on Shark Tank, so awesome. It also helped me to achieve $1 million plus in sales profitably. And this year we're in growth mode. So we are looking for strategic partnerships. If anybody wants to see me make a fool of myself, I'll be on QVC on Monday. And then we'll be expanding next year. We haven't even touched retail. We are a DTC, direct-to-consumer product brand, and the sky's the limit. So if you guys want to get all of the busts to finally behave themselves, come see me, and we'll talk about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Athena. Thank you so much to all of the founders who pitched for us tonight. Let's hear one more big round of applause for all the founders here. And I hope you didn't forget my ask to think about how you can work with them, how you can help them, and go find them after. You'll see them in display spaces and floating around the experiences with you all. And hopefully you can take a nugget of wisdom from them. So with excitement and momentum from hearing from our founders, let's look at how we can help to amplify the impact that startup innovation makes. Accelerators and startup supporting organizations, including universities, mentors, and a variety of startup supporting organizations exist out there. They can really be the reason that an individual with a wild idea takes that next step to becoming a founder. And these organizations can be truly the reason that that innovation becomes accessible to all of us and felt by the world. So we are honored to have Joyce Sidopoulos, the co-founder and CEO of Master Robotics, as well as Matt Carney, biomechatronics engineer, research affiliate at MIT Media Labs, a founder as well, and man of many technology talents, to have you both with us today. So we are going to welcome both Joyce and Matt up to the stage, and we will have a little discussion. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Sean. Thanks, Colleen.
Do we face you?
Yeah, however you'd like. Whatever's best for you. Thank you guys for being here.
We were just saying, we forgot we were coming up here. It was so fun watching everybody else.
You're Meshmerised. So it'd be good for everyone to get a take on who you are. I think in kind of like a 1-minute summary of each of you of who you are, what you've been working on, and maybe an anecdote, something fun that you've worked on that's made an impact.
You want me to start?
Sure.
All right. Yeah, so Matt Carney, I'm trained as a mechanical engineer. I have kind of a pile of degrees at this point. I keep hopping back and forth between academics and industry. And I'm from California, the San Francisco Bay Area. So I've had the opportunity to work at a ton of different startups. SolidWorks has been my daily driver for 20 years now or something like that. So it's fun to be here at the home base here. And I most recently did my PhD at MIT in the biomechatronics group, where I was building robotic prosthetic legs with hair. And we actually have some really cool papers that are going to be coming out pretty soon showing some really advanced stuff with that. And then also, Dassault actually helped me out quite a bit. The startup program actually helped me out during the pandemic. At the beginning of the pandemic, we kicked off an reusable elastomeric respirator project. And I quickly reached out to Suchit when I realized that there was this team of random strangers who met on the internet were trying to figure out how to actually work together, and we needed some sort of CAD tool that we could share across all of us. So we actually got into 3DX from that, and that actually enabled us to ship 1,000 units. We've actually did testing with the Army and all this stuff. It turned out to be really successful thanks to that help. So these days I'm actually working with another team here that we met at SolidWorks World in 2020, Bowhead Corp. They build a mountain bike for paraplegics and quadriplegics, and we're now collaborating, bringing kind of all the robotic stuff together. So that's, I guess, I would say is like the fun thing that I'm most excited about these days.
It is a pretty fun thing.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
It's really cool. It's in a lot of, some people may have seen it, it's in a lot of our materials and imagery for Dassault Systems.
I think I saw it on the video over there.
Yeah.
So I only have 1 degree. I'm just an electrical engineer.
It's a good one.
So helped co-found Mass Robotics, and we are a innovation hub, nonprofit, independent, and we house startups from around the world under one roof, and we provide them the resources they need to be successful. So one of those resources is, of course, SolidWorks. SolidWorks was a supporter from the very beginning, believed in us before anyone else did, with both funding and their software. So a lot of our companies use SolidWorks, been a partner ever since. And so honestly, companies from everywhere from Singapore and Australia to Germany and Israel are all in Boston, in the seaport where we are. I do want to do a plug. The fun thing is the block party. We're hosting a robot block party this weekend in the seaport. Everything from Festo's flying bionic birds to humanoids to the dogs, of course, a drone obstacle course. So it's Saturday. It's free, 11 to 4, middle of the seaport.
A great opportunity to see some amazing robotics. Awesome. Thank you, guys. So we think about the impact that you've both made. You've worked with startup projects that are across a span of different industries, and mostly focused on making an impact for a better future. So, kind of thinking on that line, and a lot of people talk about the future of robotics, and maybe they're nervous or some people are excited. So I'd love to get your take on, what are the positive impacts you see coming for the future of robotics? And some industries that come to mind to me are education, mobility, future work. So yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
So today we went down to watch the tents go up for the block party, and there were 5 guys hanging on strings from the top of a tall building washing the windows. We looked up there and we're like, why aren't there robots doing that? I mean, so typically, everyone knows when we always talk about dirty, dull, dangerous, mining. There's so many dangerous things that people do that could be done by robots. And I look at it as not taking the job of those 5, but one of those guys could be down below controlling, right? 2 of those guys could be in a manufacturer building those robots. Someone has to deploy and train them. So it's not, it's changing jobs. It's not taking jobs, really. So that is just one little example. But I think healthcare is one that's huge. And we talk about, robots aren't human. Robots are very task-oriented. So robots can do tasks. They can't have empathy for a patient. So while the robot can run and get a towel or medication, a nurse can spend more time with the patient because she's not doing that. So that's just an example of, people are worried about robots, but they're not human. They're doing exactly what we tell them to do, and no more, no less, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's funny. So my background, I got into robotics building humanoid robots in San Francisco. And it's really interesting because like, these days, like there was just a new video from Tesla just earlier this week or last week showing a humanoid robot sorting blocks, opening and closing its hand. I was realizing, there's actually nothing novel there. The humanoid robot, like they packaged it nicely, but it's still like, we've been working on humanoid robots for a very long time. And I've had to rethink myself of what I want to be working on after working on the biomechatronics. Like the biomechatronics is, robotic prosthetic legs, in my opinion, is kind of like one of the most humanoid of humanoid types of robots that you can be building. And that, I think, is the type of application we want to be seeing more of and probably will be seeing more of, where it's task-specific robotics, kind of like you're saying, of like really laser focusing on what is the real win and the real value add from this set of tools. Because when you try to go general purpose, of course, you're trying to solve all of the problems. It's actually difficult to achieve that. And so in the medical space in particular, I think there's a huge room. There's huge room for both precision in the surgical environment, but then also in the rehabilitation space, where right now our healthcare, particularly here in the U.S., maybe you get 45 minutes with a physical therapist once a week for 12 weeks or something. 45 minutes out of the rest of your week is not actually that much to actually give you any sort of real support. And so I think we're going to start to see more advanced robotic systems being implemented in that kind of use case, where you can actually go home with the system, kind of like some of the pitch folks were talking about, is like being able to monitor and utilize this kind of like establishing care in a more long-term and longitudinal kind of direction is really a big win for robotics. And then one other space I might mention is, like I'm from the West Coast, where we have fires are a major thing, and you're starting to see a lot more showing up in the forestry management space. How do we deal with these fires before they get out of control? And there's a number of startups trying to apply towards that right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we see a lot of, at the lab, we look for startups who are supporting from a sustainability focus, and certainly see robots in the ocean that are helping with different kinds of things, or or in forestry as well. So that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, speaking of sustainability, also farming and agriculture, right? There's robots that are doing the precision weeding, the precision putting down pesticides. You don't want pesticides covering your whole farm if you only need it in one little area. Same with watering, fertilizing. So there's a lot of more precision things that can be done, saving the environment, right?
Right, yeah, that's true. And to your point too, that I think we see a lot of cobots as well. We see our customers looking, and startups that are looking to, move towards, it's cobots, it's humans and robots together.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point, is that it's like, I think the real value add is that co-working kind of environment where you can leverage, humans are very good at what we do, but if we can amplify our capabilities by leveraging some of these technologies, that gives room for, increasing our own effectiveness, particularly when there's like not necessarily enough folks to go do all the different tasks, or also just like I actually think just like some robotic nuance inserted into products that actually enables the product to be more advanced than it was otherwise. I think that's where we're going to see a lot.
You mentioned something like enabling the human to do more. Have you seen those robots where you put extra arms on yourself?
Yes.
So the robot can hold something up, and then you can actually be doing the work.
Yeah.
Right.
And then those robot arms can come down, so it's like you have 4 arms.
Yeah.
How cool.
It looks a little weird, but it's
Will there be
cool.
one at the robot block party?
Oh, I don't think there's going to be no, maybe not.
Next year. So this kind of leads into the buzz topic of AI, which of course you can check out Dassault Systèmes' kind of perspective on AI in our dome in the lobby as well. But we think about how AI plays a part in this. I guess what are your thoughts on that?
So I do use ChatGPT. I love it. So it gives me some great sentences that I can put together. But if you think about, I always go back to the definition of AI, because people think, oh, AI is going to start building itself and take over. AI is nothing more than algorithms using lots of data. So there's lots of data out there being collected by our iPhones. Everyone has an iPhone. There's sensors everywhere, right? So there's all this data, and AI is someone, a human, who had to program it to look at these data. How do we slice and dice them? How do we come up with an algorithm that's going to give you a solution that a lot of you guys that you pitched are doing, right? You're using AI, but it's algorithms and data to kind of figure something out and give you an answer. So, you know, I think, again, go back to healthcare. Some of what you guys were pitching, right? You're using AI, you're using your algorithms with all this data, right? And now you can look at 1,000 x-rays and compare it to an x-ray you're doing and come out with something a little bit better than a human eye could see, right? So I look at it as healthcare is going to be a huge user. Mobility we talked about, right? Cars have tons of sensors on them, and they have to be able to make decisions quickly, especially if you're going 60 miles an hour. And so there's algorithms that are built to, you know, take in all that sensor data and make decisions. And those decisions are AI, but someone programmed it. So it's our decision based on all that input that's coming in, right?
Yeah, and it's an interesting point of like, again, I think it's amplifying our capabilities. I think that's, at least that's what I'm finding with my own experience using the large language models and ChatGPT or something like that. Like the Copilot for programming is like a perfect example of something that it's not necessarily, like if you ask it to write a program, it sometimes gets it, sometimes doesn't, but it can help get you going, similar to like giving you a suggestion for a sentence. But you know, like this is all blown up in the last year, right? Like I think almost exactly a year ago or something like that, it started coming out, and I think it's still open for us to figure out how we're going to apply it. And one of the things we need to remember is like a lot of these things, these models are based on models of data, right? And similar to like we talked about when you're doing FEA, like structural analysis, garbage in is garbage out. And so we have to be careful about what we're feeding into these things that we're using to then set up like rules going forward. I think like that's something we really need to be careful with, particularly when we're looking at like socioeconomic data or things that are outside the physical actuation environment and more of these social applications. Like the data we've collected, it may be biased in it to start off with, and so we have to really be careful with just assuming that just applying a model that fits to previous data that provides the outcomes that we actually want going forward.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And we've certainly seen, probably all of us in our own experiences of playing around with it can see how that could get misinterpreted. And
yeah, I mean, even some of the models are like, you know, like if you don't, like without like proper prompt engineering, you're getting, you know, it looks like a silly blog post or something like that, right? So, but then you go to the data side, the data is a lot easier to, or like on like, I'm thinking on the robotic side, like evaluating sensor data or something like that. There's huge value there where that's just raw data that can be, like you can evaluate if your gearbox is about to fail or something along those lines. And now accessing the fact that we have so much computation capability, we can actually implement these things like right at the use case. You can like, it's one thing to train, but once we get past all the training and we're actually applying these models, I think we'll start to see a lot of advanced functionality, things that we couldn't always do. And in the robotics space, particularly in the cobot kind of space, in the place where we're trying to interact with the technology directly, I think there's still this like weird spot of like, what is the person's intention of what they're trying to do? We certainly see this in the prosthesis space. Like we can we actually built a bunch of AI models to try to evaluate how the robotic leg was going to work as you're taking a step, and we found that just basic heuristics worked better than the machine learning models we were using. Wow. They're just faster and more reliable. And that was 2 years ago, so maybe things are a little bit different now. But the part of that came down to like we didn't necessarily have enough data to train enough to be accurate enough. And so it is this, again, it's this like garbage in, garbage out. What can we do with it? And how can we collect enough data to feed the model and create something that's going to give us the type of response we want, that's like expected response, that's not somehow throwing us off.
But then once you have all that data, then you can start to predict what they're going to do next, right?
Yeah.
It's a predictive analytics kind of thing moving forward.
What do you think would be, in both of your kind of lines of work, the biggest impact for good that you see AI having, or maybe your kind of dream world of AI in your industries?
Dream world is to clean up the mess that people have made of the environment, right? Yeah. So, we see robotics that are cleaning the oceans. Actually, I was just in Singapore last week, and there's a robot that's cleaning all the bays, and it kind of goes out, and it kind of collects everything. I think the hard part about, I think robotics can do a lot for the environment, putting carbon back into the soil, Manufacturing in space is something that I'm fascinated with. But I guess it comes down to who pays for that. Because it's for the environment, investors want to see people making money for them. And so this is more, should the governments be putting money into cleaning up the environment? Who pays for that? But I think robotics can do a lot with getting the environment back on track. It seems like a lot of students are really interested in that too. So that generation coming up, they really want to clean up the ocean, right? They want to clean the air.
Yeah, because you see the world you're stuck with, and there's been a mess. The mess has been made, right? Like I could go on and on about this. I'll maybe save that for another part. But younger folks are very focused because someone's got to do it. And I used to have this bumper sticker on my car. I used to have this car that had an insane number of bumper stickers on the back.
You're one of those.
Yeah, it was a 1970 Volkswagen Beetle. And I learned about how to work on cars on this car because it was my daily driver. I bought it for $500. It had no floor. When I got it, I did put a floor in. But anyway, one of the bumper stickers says, "The problems we face will not be fixed by those who created them." And so that requires the youth to move that forward. But back to the AI side of things, and feel free to talk to me about all that later. I can go off. I do think you're right. I think it's about using some of these tools to help us figure out where to best apply our resources also, because there is a limited set of hours that people can work towards things and energy and capital to expend. And so helping us figure out where to actually apply that and then laser focus on those things. Like for instance, the wildfire stuff is is it cleaning up the forest before the fire starts or getting to the fire as soon as it starts? Those are tools where we can actually identify these things. And can we build the tool to the point that it's better than a human sitting at a tower on a hill somewhere looking for smoke? Some of these things are we're just, the robotic systems the computational systems are just reaching the point where we can go head to head.
We do have a drone company working on that, doing the kind of scripted burns and kind of flying over and seeing what leaves are good and what areas you can do the prescribed burn to kind of make those paths. So
cool.
It's
very cool.
Lots of data.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also, again, going up and looking at satellite data, or that's closer data to be able to see on a farming perspective as opposed to the forest fires is how do you maintain your massive crops with fewer people to be able to work in the fields?
Yeah, it does feel like we're kind of at that point where the amount of time that we put into figuring this out. At the moment, it's interesting, and we want to solve these problems, but the alternative solution of someone sitting in a tower is so simple, right? So we are in that head-to-head of
we were just talking about the adoption. Who were we just talking about the adoption of these things, right? It takes a while for these guys who have been doing something one way for years and years and years to get them to try something new.
Yeah.
Right? They want to see other people do it first. So
That's
the
true,
adoption is something we really work on a lot. So
and the adoption is challenged when it is when the alternative option is sort of a very simple solution, although maybe not the best solution or maybe not the most effective. But
I was thinking about another. I think one of these tools tools such as Copilot that are really going to enable us, and one of the things I've talked with GP and Suchit about here in Shikrad is more automation in the design process to enable us to move faster to develop some of these tools, both on the electrical engineering side of things and on the machine design side. Right now, it does require a lot of training to be able to build advanced technologies. But what's been happening in the robotics space over the last, I don't know, even 10 years, 5 to 10 years is, and we see this in the fab labs, is access to Arduinos, little microcontrollers that are actually really easy to program now, and these cheap, and motor drivers to drive small motors that can be used for actuation, and now Copilot to help program these tools to start to speed up the development process so that you can get a prototype up and running rapidly so that we can evaluate whether or not it's a good idea to go further. And then maybe you dive in and get into more detailed engineering. But those rapid prototyping tools, I think, are extremely valuable, both on the simulation side and actually building the hardware itself.
Yeah, that's a great take on what is that AI for the positive, really positive and good impact that it can have for sure is that ideally accessibility to technology. Yeah.
Yeah, augmentation. I mean, the prostheses are augmentation for the body. I think this is augmentation for our brain.
Yeah, right. That's a simplified way of saying it. Yeah.
Also to get you out of that fog, ChatGPT is really good for that. Just give me an opening sentence, I can write the rest.
Writer's block. It breaks the writer's block. Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, you both, as you've shared, really are working on incredibly impactful projects and supporting startups that are doing that. And you're futurists. You are thinking about that long run. So, what are you most excited about that you're working on? Kind of, what's the future project or company or what is the future for you?
We do always get asked, what's your favorite company, which is really hard when you have 80
I can't
companies.
ask you that. It's like
No.
your favorite child.
Yes, you can say that. But what we think is impactful is having all these companies under one roof and just seeing them work together and come up with a new solution because they can pivot so easily, right? We talked about, in our prep call a little bit about how a lot of large companies aren't innovating fast because they don't have different people coming together that have completely different ideas, right? They're from different countries. They see different problems, right?
Collaboration,
Right.
together, yeah.
So I'm excited to expand Mass Robotics because we're getting pretty much to capacity and we want more companies to be able to come in, right? So that's exciting.
What does expansion look like for Mass Robotics?
Oh,
If
boy.
you can say.
I can't say anything because my boss is in the back.
That's exciting.
Just more, really more space,
Yeah.
right? So more space to house more companies, larger spaces for them to come together. This is an awesome space.
Which is so interesting, I think, in today's world of, we've all gone through having to be completely remote, which I would imagine was challenging for you all at the time. But now that, it being in robotics and how crucial it is for you to be actually together.
You have to have a machine shop and you have to work on the hardware part of it. So it was difficult during COVID. We did remain open for a few companies that were in the supply chain area or defense, but people love it. It's so nice to see people coming together again. Really, I love having a packed kitchen at lunch and the lab's packed and there's someone waiting to use a machine. It's awesome.
It's good. Yeah, it's good. It's better when it's lively like that. Yeah, and it's great that's expansion and bringing people together is the exciting future for you all. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
What are you working on next? You do some super cool stuff.
Working on two main projects right now. The one I'm really excited about is actually a collaboration with Bowhead. We're building a new wheelchair right now, and we're just gonna sprinkle a little nuance of robotics into the chair, and that's by far the thing I'm most excited about, and because it's like the perfect application of robotics in a healthcare setting where you can improve people's performance in a way that doesn't get in their way.
So accessibility.
Yeah, accessibility.
Yeah. We do
and
have
empowerment.
We do have a couple startups working on that. One is doing a robotic hand that signs in ALS, and it's for deafblind. So they put their hand on the back of it, and they can read what they can hear or understand what is being said. But think about it, they can get a book. They can, they're so reliant on a person to walk them, to talk to them. There's another one that's doing think about a seeing eye dog, but it's a robot, so it's got sensors on the front. And you can do, let's say you want to go for the same walk every day. It can then use AI and the data, and the next day they can take you on the same walk, and they'll have memorized your walk. And you get so comfortable with it that, it's not like the stick, which is very difficult to use. So that's a really exciting one, too.
Yeah, I love the ASL. That's really cool. Awesome. Well,
she'll be at the block party.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this block party is definitely where you want to be on Saturday. Awesome. Well, thank you both for sharing this. And we want to open it up to questions from the crowd. For anybody who has questions for Joyce and Matt, we have a really fun cube that we can toss around to people in the audience. So it doesn't hurt if it gets thrown at you.
Soft.
But questions? Any questions for Joyce and Matt?
It's got a mic in it, right?
Yeah. It's got a mic.
I'm Mac Rush with Suffolk Technologies. We've done some work with Mass Robotics before, and you guys have been an awesome partner for us. I was curious, in the construction space, excluding prefab and offsite robotics applications, What do you think is the future for helping workers on site, manual labor, trying to make their lives easier on construction sites?
The extra arms are pretty cool. Holding something up while you're trying to drill something. There's a lot of inspection robots. There's robots that can move things for you so you're not carrying heavy objects, right? So autonomous mobile robots. I saw a really neat one on LinkedIn today that climbed a pole and it put straps around, and then it used so it had what are those, when they build those planks and the planks are going up and down, it's like the elevator kind of thing.
Pulley
But
system
yeah, but it was completely robotic. So it was hooked onto the pole, and as it would go up, it would put a strap around, and then the next strap, and then it made the elevator that went up and down.
Oh, scaffolding?
Scaffolding.
But,
That's
yeah.
what, yes, scaffolding. We just held a robotics in construction event a couple months ago at Suffolk Construction, and there's a video of it, so you can see the startups talking about what they're working on.
Yeah, I missed that one even though it was in my
was really
backyard.
good.
I was away on but,
Yeah. So really, robotics is really touching every industry, and we try to do a very focused events on those industry verticals, and so that was the robotics and construction one. We've done robotics in, we haven't done healthcare, we've done manufacturing, another one with logistics. So we try to kind of focus on those verticals and then bring those potential customers in to see kind of the future of what people are working on.
Thank you.
You gotta hook it up
Oh,
there,
long
right?
toss.
Goes to
You gotta hook it.
Sarah.
There you go.
Ooh. You know, you talked a little bit earlier about how a lot of these new technologies are being implemented, but the question is, how do you make them successful and accessible? I feel like a lot of these emerging technologies are for underserved groups. They're for people who live in, underserved countries. But, the question of, does the government pay for these technologies to get to them? Do, these companies with investors who are expecting a profit? What can you speak to the accessibility of this at all and things that are powered by robotics and AI?
So which ones do you mean, the ones that are for like the ALS hand or the walking dog, or do you mean something like more complicated?
Like just in general. I mean, I guess the ASL hand, like who's going to get that?
So you'd be shocked to know how many deafblind people there are in this world. It's crazy. Like, and think about during COVID where they had no accessibility.
Yeah.
So they were just so isolated. They had no idea what was going on. So that particular startup is working with the government and making the price point low enough that it falls under the Disabilities Act. So it's a device that is for a disabled person. So the price point will be so they can all afford it. Same for the walking dog. So there are government things in place where insurance do pay for some of these products, right? The ones that are way advanced, I'm thinking like for factories. A lot of our companies are working on, it's very interesting, the interface between the robot and the person to make it easier to use. So that if you're a factory worker, you don't have to go back to school to become a roboticist to move the robot somewhere else to show it what else to do. So people are working on voice activated, text activated, and then one of them is actually showing the robot what to do, and then you step back and the robot does it. So they're making it very simple so that an ordinary person without an engineering degree can actually still work in their same job and be moving and controlling, the robots.
And in that case, would that be paid for? It would be probably more traditional investment, like a venture-backed.
So actually,
or
those three companies are venture-backed, right? So that's what they're
Venture-backed,
looking for. And the people that employ them, the factories, there's all kinds of, I know in the state of Massachusetts, I'm sure everywhere, they actually have grants that pay the factory to teach their employees how to use these things. So there's, as long as it's training for the employee that they can take wherever they go, there's all kinds of programs where those manufacturers can get funded by the state to do the integration of robotics into their spaces.
So I think that point of the state sponsoring some of this development is an interesting point, because I don't know that the venture-backed model is necessarily the best for some of these technologies, because when you're looking for these like 10x returns, some of these technologies need to exist in the world, and they can be totally successful companies, small businesses, or even large businesses. But the VC model itself that they give you money and it lights the fuse, and then you have to get this 10x return, doesn't necessarily drive technology in the direction that the customers actually need. And I think that that model is a little bit messed up right now. We're very reliant on it. Like definitely that's where a lot of the hype comes from. And then at the same time, like government funding can be really difficult to work through. Like the phase 1, phase 2 SBIRs or STTRs are very painful to actually operate under. You get $275,000 for a year. It takes 11 months for it to actually show up in your bank account. And then you have another 12 months to demonstrate, and then another 6 months until phase 2 comes through. Phase 2 is when you actually get enough revenue to do something. But $275,000 is hardly enough for one engineer or two engineers if you include some sort of overhead. And then you're building hardware, so there's capital costs. Those two, there needs to be another model in between those to really allow us to actually develop technologies that need to exist. Kind of what you were talking about earlier, of like there's a bunch of problems that need to be solved, and not all of those are going to be necessarily profitable. And if we're looking at short-term returns, if we're looking at like long-term returns, of course it's profitable, but you can't necessarily put a number on that.
Yeah, we need financing innovations to help us with this. Yeah.
But with every innovation the government does, like think about the internet, right? That was DARPA.
Yeah.
DARPA money. So that was a government-funded thing before it went crazy and went wild. I'm reading a new book. I always like to share my new books. Chip War. It's fantastic, especially if you're an electrical engineer. You will love it. But it's talking about the chip industry and how it got started. And it was all started with government funding, because we needed to get something in space to compete with the Russians. And so they funded TI and Fairchild and some of these chip manufacturers or chip producers. So it's a fascinating book. But really, every big technology like that has initiated with the government.
Right.
So,
but not necessarily through just an SBIR program, right? It is like
there's
when
definitely
there's
not enough money in those.
Right.
We've seen a lot of our startups. We've actually we just did
Valley of Death.
Oh, all right, so they've raised about over 50 million in SBIRs since the time we've been open.
Amazing.
But even that 50 million, like some of them have waited 12 months to get their money.
Right.
What do you do in between?
Right. How do you manage cash flow? Yeah, it's very difficult. It can't be your only source, right? And if it is a mixed bag. I mean, there's this new stuff now, the FROs, functional research organizations, which is a different funding model to attempt to fund things that sit somewhere between academics and VC-backable technologies that need to exist. I think that's a very interesting place. But yeah, there's a valley of death for funding some of this development. But that point of like DARPA funding, say the internet, the internet, how long from when the very first ARPANET stuff was going on to actually us to Amazon selling books or whatever.
But think how fast that happened. Well, I know it was slow at the beginning.
Right, that's my point. It was slow at the beginning, and then it takes time to get there. And so, can you breach that valley of death? If it's a 30-year valley of death, it's pretty hard through normal financing. If it's and in VC land, it's 18 months usually. There's basically as much time as you have to actually get something out there. And that's a really short window if you're building something hard and complicated, particularly if you're not going to see outcomes for longer than that. So it is a tricky space, and so like tools that can help accelerate that stuff, your development, are really helpful. That's where like the point of like rapid prototyping, to be able to just build things quick and cheap. But even that's only going to solve some of the problems when you just have big costly things, or you need to deploy a lot of technology in order to see results from these things.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know, it's interesting.
We're happy to be able to support in that way for sure. But so to Sarah's question, it's not super straightforward.
Yeah,
I guess it's
good question.
But the financing part of that is complicated, especially for these kind of moonshot projects that we believe in and we know need to happen, but are going to take a while before they can make any revenue. So, or if that's part of the plan. Any last questions here before we wrap up and open up to the experiences and food?
Hello there. I was wondering what your thoughts were on like humanoid robots, and are they something that like adds a lot of value? Because you were talking about the idea of like having very niche roles for robots where it's like hyper focused and specific. And is it just like an attempt of us to like anthropomorphize them and try and see ourselves in them, or is there actually value in that kind of behavior being added?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think about it a lot. I don't know that we actually need humanoids at this point. When I was a little kid, the reason I studied mechanical engineering is because I wanted to get into building humanoid robots. I've got this picture on my wall from sometime in the 80s that It's been on my wall. I actually have it in my workshop now. Ever since I was a little kid, I've had it. It was like a major inspiration, and it is cool. Like building a humanoid robot with 37 degrees of freedom or whatever is a really cool thing to create and to be around in a program. But I don't know that it's necessarily the right application for our technology. I'm actually not working in humanoids for that reason. Like last year, I visited almost every major humanoid robotics manufacturer in the U.S. and ones that are just now coming out. And I chose not to work on it because I think there's bigger problems that we need to solve. And just building a humanoid that can, supposedly they're going to take people's jobs. I think it's going to be a long way before we really see them. But the main applications right now are warehouses, either moving totes around. It's kind of the primary. That's kind of the best application we've seen so far. There's a couple of companies that are really aiming towards that. Since Boston Dynamics is just down the street here, got acquired. They're now working in warehouse space. There's a lot of warehouse space robots. It's true there are a lot of injuries in the warehouse, and it's a job that's not a great job. But some of these jobs, I think, we still want people to have some of them, or even the cash register. This idea that you're going to have a humanoid standing at the cash register. I mean, we've just gone to self-checkout at this point, which I personally don't think is a great application. I think it's actually putting, that's not necessarily the best for the consumer. It's the best for the company to cut their costs. But it actually costs us more time because it takes us longer to, we don't run barcodes all day long. You could put a robot there. Sure, maybe that's the solution. Or you could put a robot out in the aisles and restock the shelves, but that's also a human's job, and we don't necessarily need to get rid of all of those jobs. So, I think places where humanoids could make sense is maybe back to the healthcare thing, maybe in care for people, and you need a humanoid to maybe get up and down the stairs, or maybe we could just do wheels a little bit better and get up and down the stairs. I worked in humanoid robots, and we did a couple different things to try to see what is the right application for. One was a healthcare application, help move patients around. That type of thing, I think there's strong arguments for it. But just to either have an army of robots, that's probably not a good idea. And we've all seen the movies, right? You don't want that. I think it's a really good question, and there are some major players going after it right now. And in some ways, it's like the autonomous vehicles. We've been thinking we're going to have autonomous vehicles for the last 15 years or something. And they're just now starting to block all the streets in San Francisco when they get confused. Yeah. If you go to San Francisco, they're everywhere, right? And they're just generating more traffic, right? It's just more cars on the road. Is that really what we need to be doing? Or do we want to improve infrastructure for people to get around? Because at the end of the day, we are people. I think it's a very good question to ask, and it's important to keep asking these questions. Just because they're cool doesn't mean they should exist.
Unintended consequences.
But they're very expensive and very complicated. Humanoids, right? Yeah. And there's, I think people do it because our world is built for humans, right? Everything we've built, how to open a door, the height of the door, it's all built for our bodies, right? And so people think that it's got to be our shape to be able to do those things. But even Boston Dynamics, their warehouse robot is on wheels with maybe arms.
Yeah, that was a crazy dinosaur robot
stretch or something.
That one's a pretty intense
but
one.
It's not you might not need legs. It's so much better to have a base with wheels or something.
It depends
so there's
on your
all different.
environment.
That could look weird.
Yeah, or emergency response. Earthquakes. We just saw some major earthquakes in Morocco. There are applications where it can be useful. I think we should question why we're building these things. I think certainly my approach early on was because it was cool. Yeah. It's really freaking cool to build these things. And there's no question about it. It is cool. But should we put our resources elsewhere?
Yeah.
I think it's a valid question.
Cooler to question it now. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for being here. Well, big round of applause for Joyce.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us.
We'll see you all on Saturday.
Yes. So hopefully you'll join Joyce and Matt on Saturday. Or Joyce, I should say, Matt maybe not. Oh, you're good. Good. Oh, so yes, you can join both Joyce and Matt on Saturday. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And you'll be around, so feel free to find Joyce and Matt wandering around, ask them more questions. So thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate you coming out to share in this meeting of the minds, this incredible night of meshing together. You are the founding members of Meshmerise Boston. And tonight's really just all about exploring what Meshmerise symbolizes, which is that unity of the minds, just that fascination of innovation, the aspiration to make a lasting impact, as we talked about. And as we heard from our startup founders, they're really pushing the boundaries on creating meaningful solutions, and that's a good reminder of us of what's possible and these opportunities that we have to make a positive impact. And thank you, Joyce and Matt. As we learned from Joyce and Matt, through their unique experiences, it's amazing what we can achieve when we come together as a community and kind of work towards that common goal and question the norms. So I encourage each of you to take a moment during the networking sessions to find these visionary humans that you've heard from tonight and rise together. So as we continue to foster innovation and impact for innovation, let's remember how our collective efforts can really shape for a brighter future. So enjoy Meshmerise. You will find that the night is not over, we're just beginning. So behind these walls and kind of around the corners here, you'll find spaces where you can engage with these unique experiences. We have one-of-a-kind, made for this event art called Glitch, just on the other side of this wall here, made by the amazing Kate Reed, our artist in residence here at the lab. We also have a tour of the lab if you wanted to check out where our startups are building prototypes and talk with them about their prototypes. Feel free to explore the lab space. We also have some of the latest technology in AR, VR in our EBC, the Executive Briefing Center, which when you go back by the dome to the right, you can go in there and check out AR, VR experiences, as well as a glimpse at how Dassault Systèmes ended up on the red carpet recently. We have our very own green carpet that you can walk on and take some pictures on as well. And opportunities to try out some of the latest Dassault Systèmes technology over to my right here. So explore, enjoy. Thank you once again for being here and being part of this inspiring evening. Together we can rise, we can mesmerize, and we can make an impact that resonates well beyond just this moment. So thank you so much. Enjoy.